Hey, everybody, it's your friendly tour guide, John Jennings. And I want to take a couple moments and say thank you so much for all your help and dedication to this work. And I'd like to take a little bit of time and kind of cruise through the draft revisions for Division 33 or Agricultural Lands Rule. I'm going to stop my video. You don't need to see me, and I'm going to do this. So this is the draft that was presented. It's been adjusted a little bit, but by and large, it's what was available for the last Rules Advisory Committee meeting in Madras. And I'm going to try to cruise through this at a pretty high level pretty quickly. And um, to begin, we've added some definitions kind of on the front end. We've chosen to abandon the term dual use in favor of agrivoltaics. So the agrivoltaics development, I had actually had agrivoltaic, but my spell check kept correcting me on that. But the point is this, what we've done here is to state clearly that agrivoltaics may occur as part of any approved project, which it always has been. But furthermore, to consider establishing an opportunity in Eastern Oregon for larger projects than would otherwise be allowed. And based on kind of following the alphabetically here, we kind of have to go to E before D. If we don't get to line 28 here, the agrivoltaics development program, this concept would be that a county, if they wanted to, would adopt provisions to entertain these types of proposals for the purpose of considering larger projects that would otherwise be allowed. This would be a companion piece. This would not be dependent on the Division 23 work, the low conflict siting work that we're pursuing. This would be in addition to that. You see that we have tried to break out what that might look like in terms of size for the various categories of agricultural land. And at this point, we've got some blanks in here, but we're measuring it by megawatts, not acres. That might not be the right way to do it. But also then the kind of the sideboards would be that there would be a limited amount that a county may approve overall. So for instance, this blank might say, I don't know, 5 megawatts, and that the cumulative amount a county could approve would be 160 acres. I'm not sure, obviously, how that comes together. But this would only be for those projects that provide regulatory relief that are larger than would otherwise be allowed. During the definition of microgrid, everyone seemed to hate that last time, so we'll probably get rid of that. Moving down here, in the body of the definition of photovoltaic solar power generation facility, we have added in this language. So this is the language from the wind rule regarding temporary workforce housing. And the anticipation expectation would be really campground facilities. And we just took what was in the wind rule and migrated it directly into the solar rule. There is not a policy choice not to allow in solar. This wasn't a big deal when we were talking on the early days when a 100-acre site was a big project. A couple of one, I just tacked this on, and I don't know if we could do this legally, but I thought it was worth discussion. We've called out already a couple different types of projects that aren't subject to these rules, and so we wondered if there's kind of a de minimis size for community solar projects, that might also be able to go forward without consideration of these rules. Maybe we can't, but I think it's worth talking about. And the threshold here would be 500 kilovolts. That's a couple acres, I think. Most of this language here just kind of aligns the language about agrivoltaics. You'll see that kind of cascading through this rule. And that here we're getting to, and these are my highlights. I highlighted so I could see them. These are the approval criteria that apply largely across the board. They don't all apply to non-arable land, but they do apply in most instances, and some of them do apply all the way across the board. The first one is that There would not be unnecessary impacts on agricultural operations on portions of the property. That'd be other pieces of the property that's not occupied by the project. Unnecessary soil erosion, unnecessary soil compaction, not just weed species. All right, these are all things we would like to try to avoid, and the way we've written this, with that they can be satisfied through the presentation of a plan that is prepared by someone who's qualified to speak to these issues. So we don't see these as being areas that would result in a denial, but so much as areas that deserve attention and to be accounted for in an application. Here's a couple other things we've added, kind of thinking through that kind of a next step with regard to soil health. It's in blue here, right? Soil health, F would be the accounting for wildfire. And then temporary workforce housing in a little more serious way. Again, kind of going back up to line 8 here. We're really trying to, I think that the policy choice here, the question is, do we want to try to avoid, kind of a bare earth situation, where we're using chemical applications to control any vegetation on the ground, and instead really wanting to promote a healthy vegetative cover. Wildfire is really kind of following suit, moving to line 15, with what FSEC has done in the last couple of years. And then line 20, the temporary workforce housing. What would be thinking of here is not, we don't want to force anybody to do anything or to spend any money. But we would like to I think it would be helpful to the counties and other folks to understand how many employees are expected and where they're going to come from, how long they'll be there, and that it's reasonable that the housing is likely to occur. They're going to be taken care of. And these items would apply to all new proposals, not just those under the low conflict siting. Again, if these are good ideas, it might make sense to apply them across the board. If it's a good idea for a low conflict site to mitigate wildfire, maybe it's a good idea for a ordinary conditional use to do the same thing. Again, food for thought. I'm just going to scroll down here. There again, this is kind of language that kind of links up the agritech stuff as well as some things we're going to look at next. Thank you for your patience. You scroll down and down and down and down and down. So ultimately, we get to the very bottom. And as written right now, these are subsections Q and R. And this is intended to really be the true intersection of the Division 23 rules, so low conflict rules, and the existing agricultural lands rules, right? These lands will remain zoned for exclusive farm use. So this rule will apply. And we want to make sure that they're crosswalked appropriately. And so starting at line 17, as written, lands that are significant would be determined significant under the Goal 5 rule, under the Division 23 provision, which is this one, right? These are the acreage thresholds that would apply. I don't know that there will be high value farmland made available. If there is, 240 acres is the statutory ceiling. We cannot offer a project size that would be under county jurisdiction larger than 240 acres. And these follow suit, right? So for arable lands, we have to stick with the high value arable, non-arable. That's how the rule is written now. That's how the statute's written in 215-446. So what we've done really is say if these are significant sites pursuant to Division 23, then you can go to the ceiling allowed under law without triggering FSEC jurisdiction without an exception. Furthermore, D here, 26 to 29, we try to do here is account for the longstanding customary farm and forest compatibility test, and I've referenced both the statute and the rule. That is it can be a complicated and very discretionary, and frankly, it can be a pretty high bar as it exists today. What we tried to do is to reduce it to more manageable pieces and take a very discretionary process, use a lot of judgment, and compact it into something that's more clear and objective. And so what this would say is for um, those significant lands as described above in Q 17 through 25, you can meet this test, which is required by statute. We can't remove it by demonstrating that the provisions of K, A through F, those are the approval criteria we just looked at, the weeds and the compaction and the wildfire and the so on and so forth, um, as well as any measure necessary to comply with any mitigation measures. And I think there's a typo there. I don't think it's 14 anymore. But the result is that you meet the criteria and you meet the obligated mitigation measures, then you satisfy that test. R is for something a little different, which would be an instance where a county has opted in, but has not stood up a local program. So they're talking about resource sites and not resource areas, and that it'd be a little limited in the scope, and the sizes would be as written. They don't have to be this way. End up this way. The sizes would be a little smaller. Looking at 160, 1280, and 1920. These I think are the numbers that were originally in House Bill 2329 before those were raised in 2023 session. So that's pretty much it, you guys. I know it's a quick and dirty rendition. I also would just, I guess, call out, it was brought up, which is a great question. What about mixed farm forest zones or farm forest goal 3, goal 4 zones? I think we want to declare which or how to figure out which tests to use. This will make sense to anybody that done work in these areas. I think the predominant use is the way to go with regard to using either these Division 33 rules or what we'll talk about here at some point, Division 6 rules to implement forest lands. I'm going to stop right there, you guys, and thank you all for your help. And again, I just really I'm impressed with the work that's gone into this, and would continue to encourage you to approach this conversation with an open mind and a creative spirit and a sense of humor. Thanks, everybody.